Hello everybody, welcome back to Its Current Year for another quick battle ladder replay. We're on the Peak Pass today. I'm playing some Beastmen and my opponent is playing the Vampire Counts. Ogre Kingdoms when indeed. I'm with you on that one, buddy. I think there's a lot of people looking forward to the Ogres finally getting released for Game 3. So here we are. We'll go through my army in a bit, but we'll go over and have a look at the Vampire Counts. Previously a pretty wretched matchup for the Beastmen. Still probably unfavoured, but maybe a little bit better. So zombies in the front line for my opponent, pretty stock standard. Some skeleton spears, a couple of units of regular grave guard, 2 units of crypt ghouls on the flank. Gives you some sort of leg speed with your foot sloggers and decent damage dealers, poison and all that. So against a non-armored foe, which obviously the Beastmen will generally have a lot of. Not the worst choice here. We've also got the dire pack, good for hunting centaurs and dire wolves, just for sort of backline pressure. And over this side we have a unit of black knights with the lancers and barding, as well as blood knights. Blood knights very problematic previously for the Beastmen, maybe a little bit less so now, but still a pretty tough unit. Not a lot of hard counters on the roster previously, which made this matchup very, very tough. 2 Vargulfs, like them in this matchup, nice and mobile, good damage dealers, good attack animations, regen, pretty self-sufficient. And leading the force we have Heinrich Kemmler, definitely one of my favourite Vampire Count legendary lords. He is rocking. He's got the Krell summon, and he's obviously got a number of spells. He's got the Cloak of Mist and Shadows for the item, as well as the Chaos Tombblade for his sort of aura healing, as well as some melee attack buffs. But he's taken Invocation of Nehek, Raise Dead, and he's got the Undeath Resurgence. So just a couple of spells, pretty light on for spells. Also usually like Gaze of Nagash in this matchup, it's quite good. And for my forces, the Beastmen, so front line of Goreherd with shields, a couple of Ungor spears in behind that. No Bestigors have become quite popular in this matchup, but just trying out some of the newer units here, and wanted to give myself some width as well, because I've obviously spent a fair bit in my hero slots. But 2 units of Ungor Raiders. Can pressure Mortis engines, can just do some topical damage to stuff. Some pigs for some armor piercing in the front line. We've also got a Bray Shaman of Wild back here, who has taken Jagged Dagger, Traderkin, and Bray Scream, it looks like. Not on the chariot. Then we've got the Grog Hoofs of Wolf's Run alongside another unit of Centaur Thrown Axes. Now the Grog Hoofs are very good, perfect vigor as per Centaurs do have just base, but they also have regen, which is very nice. Keeps them in the fight. They are pretty decent in combat. They have poison and armor piercing on their axes, so not much can really catch them with their 93 speed. And yeah, decent cycle charger in the late game. But my main punch in this list comes in the form of the Bloodgreed Behemoth, obviously with its strength from flesh, melee regen, as well as the Bloodgreed when it's involved in melee combat, gets a bit of a buff. But Taurox is here. I've kept him pretty cheap. He has Bloodgreed as well, obviously, and the brass body. So that's sort of how I've found him best. I don't think the rest of the stuff that he really needs to take. You can cut it pretty fine and get away with just brass body. Obviously, giving him, he's got good stats base. He doesn't really need a lot of help here. Flaming attacks can be somewhat relevant in this matchup, but the damage resistance and the melee defense is pretty handy, because he wants to get his hands dirty and do as much fighting as he can. So obviously I see a pretty wide infantry line, and I'm just going to let my opponent mainly come to me, spread out a little bit here. I'm really only too fussed about the Grave Guard. Everything else here is manageable for me, and I will actually get some counter charges in to try and burst them down. And I'm just trying to reposition my forces here. Need to probably be a little bit more active, but just getting over to this flank to mirror the movements of the Black Knights and the Blood Knights. Same for the Bloodgreed Behemoth, the Gorgon, as well as Taurox. Also see that the Vargulfs are sort of posturing up here as well, ready to get in. So staying pretty wide, letting the pigs sort of sit until we get sort of combat underway as the Gors come in. Now Gors are not going to like fighting Graveguard. That's a very poor matchup for them. And a summon is going to come down as right as I step into it. So nice play here by my opponents, and my Goreherds caught off guard a little bit by the Black Knights with their barding, and the Centaurs here need to push back here without taking too many hits from these zombies over here. But the Ungors are going to get stuck in. They're going to start firing away, and we do have a big sort of pit fight going on here. But as you can see, a nice Traderkin coming down. So a lot of damage being done, particularly to the cavalry, the Blood Knights and the Black Knights. taking massive amounts of damage and some other damage on the infantry as well, as our Ungor will sort of hold just these 2 units of zombies back over here. The Graveguard have been set on by the Razorgors, but unfortunately the cavalry has rotated around here and really are doing a number. Razorgors, you know, pretty cost-effective unit, but do not want to take a charge clean like that. They are made of tissue paper. Braysham's going to get stuck into combat to try and recharge the Jagged Dagger. And Taurox and the Gorgon here are, as well as the Krell Summon. So good timing here by my opponent, getting a lot of damage put into them, particularly the Bloodgreed by the 2 Vargulfs. Now you can see just the quick attack animations on Vargulfs. Most people look at them and think, you know, 290 weapon strength isn't all that impressive, but they attack so quickly, as one does manage to get worked down by the Ungor Raiders. Other Ungor Raiders, though, are in massive trouble. These two wolves are going to nip away at them, and they're going to take a lot of damage. But we have managed to kill 1 Vargulf, and the Bloodgreed has to sort of get out of here now. He doesn't want to stand anywhere near Krell, and having Taurox roll back in like this is not good for me either. As I think another Trader King is coming down. Don't know if it was an overcast one. No, just a normal cast, and unfortunately it hasn't hit the cavalry, which is surprising given these skeleton spears have been hit. But the Ungor spears here coming in just to break the charge of the Blood Knights and the Black Knights, as the Bloodgreed Behemoth unfortunately does get a bit of a whooping here by the Vargulfs. It is healing in combat, and Taurox at the moment isn't supporting his buddy too well. And I have unfortunately had the Dire Pack, did have to try and tried to bail out that unit of Ungors with the Groghooves and the Centaurs, but the anti-large of the Dire Pack doing a lot of damage here. So it's a bit of a pit fight at the moment, which is kind of what Vampire Counter games tend to revolve around, with Mortis Engines and healing auras. But I'm starting to get some troops back at least. These Ungors out here are doing a great job holding back these zombies. So yeah, go Ungors, you're doing well. And the Ungors here have done a nice job holding back the Black Knights, but the Invocation is coming into play, getting some healing on them, and I am forced to withdraw with my Ungor Raiders, my Centaurs, as the Shaman unfortunately has looked like it had a Brace Scream ready to be cast here, but it will be interrupted. Braysham's going to bug out as the Ungors basically just happen to be thrown in here sacrificially, because Graveguard are going to absolutely mince them. And a zombie summon going down to help this Vargulf deal with Taurox. But again, making use of the fire attacks. Obviously, we are weak to fire here as a regenerating unit on the Vargulf, so Taurox is going to have a pretty good time here. He's not really going to take any damage whatsoever with the armor from the zombies, but they, as you see here, good example of why they're still handy in these kind of situations is because he's just had 2 attack animations which I wanted going into the Vargulf, now being healed up by Invocation. So we'll check back on him in a second, but the attack animations from the Vargulf starting to really starting to add up now. The Bloodgreed Behemoth is really on its last legs, 139 hit points left. I'm surprised it actually hasn't shattered, probably just because it's a rank 9 unit and has good leaderships. But the Blood Knights here are probably going to crumble. The throwing axes are going to work them down, and we see the speed now of the Crypt Ghouls, 38 speed to 40. I am marginally quicker, but with the charge bonus animation, those Crypt Ghouls are going to nip away probably at the Ungors, and only needs one unit model to hit there, and the poison will take effect, and I think that they're going to get it here. Likewise here. So happy to bring my my Centaurs back to charge them into combat here, just to give some separation, as these ones once again run from the Crypt Ghouls. Taurox has taken a fair bit of damage, but he's at least fighting 1-to-1 now. But this Vargulf is very healthy, and you've seen he's up to a silver chevron. As Ungors fight skeleton spears here, that's fine. They'll be able to sort of hold out there. These Graveguard are going to make pretty quick work of these Ungors. I think these are the Ungors that will fight in the double zombies, so their kills are very inflated, but they probably haven't got a ton of value. But we're starting to just sort of stabilize in the back here, and I know whatever missile pressure I can bring to bear here is going to probably be somewhat relevant in the late game, as we do see the Black Knights start to crumble as a result of the throwing axes and the Ungors. And I see, just given how weak how low the Bloodgreed Behemoth is, that I am committing into combat, and he is actually healing through the majority of the damage that the Crypt Ghouls have been putting into him. So we see in the distance here my Brace Shaman unfortunately has shattered, but everywhere else it's going alright. Taurox is hanging on, and that Vargulf he's been fighting, as we saw here, was very healthy before, and all of a sudden he's not so healthy. And Graveguard and zombies, whilst they will muck up his attack animations, aren't going to pose too much of a threat of him in 1-to-1. And now that this Vargulf has disintegrated, Taurox has done a power of work here. 103 kills and a lot of damage on the two single entities. And we've managed to get the Groghulfs, having used their ammunition, to pin in Heinrich Kemmler, who with Cloak of Mist and Shadows is going to take very, very little damage from them in combat, and he's probably actually going to heal through all the damage here. But the anti-large of the Ungors may be able to just add a little bit. And now that Taurox is out from the zombies and the Graveguard over here, the Bloodbrute's coming back in. He's alive. The Ungors are shooting just into the the backs of the Graveguards here, and now Taurox is on the hunt. He has spent his whole game getting whomped around by Vargulfs, and he's going to let Heinrich Kemmler know what for now, as we see the Bloodbrute as well. I believe I've got an attack order coming in from here. I'm going to pull back because I don't want to commit any time or energy with Taurox and the Groghulfs into the armor of the Graveguard. So I am just pulling them back, just avoiding them as whatever I can. And I see these ones are. These Graveguard and zombies are ripe for sort of a bit of a rear charge, so I'm going to take that and just try and basically crumble them down. And you see the Bloodbrute here, just fighting on through great adversity, as we see another unit of Centaurs is going to come in, basically try and just lap around. I've got the attack order here to try and push past Heinrich Kemmler, and now they're going to stop and allow Taurox to get in and deliver some massive hits. And Heinrich just can't stand up to this. He's not the worst combatant for a caster, for a Necromancer caster specifically, but he just doesn't have what it takes to stand here. And even the Bloodbrute, he's actually healed up past what he was before, up to about 300 HP. The Ungors firing in on the Graveguards with their Lord dead will disintegrate, and we managed to pull a pretty close victory out from the Vampire Counts on this occasion. So. Not much left. Basically just my skirmish cav and the Ungors, who were able to stabilize and get some decent value in the end there, just firing into the backs of the Graveguard. But fantastic work by the Centaurs, both getting well and truly getting their value back. With the poisoned throwing axes of the Groghulfs, you can have your Centaur throwing axe core put a lot of damage into these guys now without really any fear of being caught. Just with they're already faster than them, and with perfect the longer the game goes on, you're not going to be sort of at risk of heavy cav catching you like this. Obviously the wolves are still a bit of the dire pack and dire wolves are still a bit of a threat, but with good macro you can keep these guys at arm's length and put some good damage into them as well. Pig's struggling a little bit, not getting a lot of value, and obviously one of them did take a clean charge from the Night Core from the Vampire Count, so that was a bit of a poor play. But for these guys, 200 kills, and like I said, not a lot of value, but they did their job. They held back a tide of zombies. The rest of them, actually pretty good value. Actually, between four units of Ungor Spears here, we've got about 2,000 gold damage value back, so you take that every day of the week. Goreherds didn't have a great time. Graveguard obviously gonna chop through them pretty efficiently. And even though our wild shaman did get shattered off maybe a little sooner than we would have liked, he did actually get some really good value, and he was very cheap given he's not on a chariot. Got one really nice trade of kin on the big blob there, and I think another undercast one because he got into combat and managed to get the jagged dagger, I think, off once or twice. But Bloodbrute has struggled a little bit, but it's still a pretty good unit in this matchup, and I think the fact that we were able to actually keep it alive was big in the late game, because we then had it reflected on the balance of power, and we could stabilize our skirmish core a little better. And Taurox, the man of the match on this occasion, nearly 4k damage value, pretty much single-handedly accounted for both the Vargulfs and then basically killed Kemmler at the end there. The Bloodbrute behemoth took a bit of a pounding, but Taurox has just been a man possessed. And like I said, with just brass body, I think he comes in at just over 1,800 points. So he's cheap enough to to pretty reliably get back his damage with his ability to tank through damage through armor and damage resistance with the brass body pop. So yeah, he was definitely the match winner on this occasion. I think he's genuinely a good pick in this matchup. Gives you a lot of punching power. The fire attacks are very relevant. There's a few things on the Vampire Counts roster that you may see. We didn't see here necessarily. Obviously, the Vargulf's weak to fire. I don't believe Hunter Kemmler is weak to fire, but there are a number of other Vampire Counts lords that are. But yeah, the Vargulfs, one got some good value, one struggled, one went down very early. I think they actually got pincushioned a little bit by the Ungors as well. But one certainly stuck around and was a bit of a nuisance, so he's nearly carried the day for the Vampires. Heinrich Kemmler, he's sort of a support caster, but with the Chaos Tombblade, he can actually... It's one of the reasons why you probably don't... Chaos Tombblade with the passive healing can sort of, at a pinch, fulfill the Mortis Engine's role. You obviously don't get the area of effect drain, and Mortis Engines are good here because... As we've said before, Vampire Counts tend to be incentivized towards blobbing. It gives you a draining aura and another passive healing aura to stack on your cavalry. So, I mean, in patches gone past, it was triple Blood Knight, Mortis Engine, and then usually you could go to Strigoi on the Terrorgeist, or you could even just go a Zombie Dragon Lord. Manfred was okay because you could spam Spirit Leeches and kill the Beastmen casters, and you can get a lot of Winds of Magic, and then you've got your breath attacks and plenty of terror to work through the Beastmen sort of infantry and all that. But yeah, Dire Pack did manage to get some value on my Grog Hoofs, but the rest of the army sort of not sort of stood up so well to Gore Herds and Ungors. I guess this Graveguard unit's done quite well. The Crypt Ghouls are a nice add. I think with this sort of list and my backline sort of assets, they did put a bit of pressure on, but they probably just couldn't quite catch my Ungors in the end, and we were able to work them down. So yeah, an okay list. Some people don't like the Mortis Engine here. I do, because I think it was previously hard for the Beastmen to deal with. But Vargulfs are great. I don't think Heinrich Kemmler's a bad pick here. I think Gorst is an okay pick, provided you've got other stuff that can sort of stop Taurox and maybe even a regular Gorgon or the Bloodbrute from jumping in. The Jabberslath is also really good here, because even though it's a conditional Mortis Engine, it's still a Mortis Engine. And undead leadership tends to be low anyway. So yeah, cool game, close game, and really highlights the power of Taurox, I think, in this matchup, and why maybe this matchup isn't as bad. I still think it's Vampire favored, but not as bad as it used to be. It used to be all borderline unwinnable. If there was such thing as an unwinnable matchup in this game, Beastmen versus Vampire Counts was as close to it as you could find. So yeah, thanks to Ogre Kingdoms Wen for the game. Thanks to you guys for checking it out. Until next time, take care.